Okay, fantastic. Welcome to the Pearl and the Echo podcast. I'm Jim Rajan, and of course I have with me Dori Sim, as always. We're going to start with 3 deep breaths before we dive into today's quote. So take your time. Of course, if you're driving, don't close your eyes, but otherwise, let's take a moment to go inside ourselves, breathe, become present so that we're all here in the same place when Dori shares her quote. So 3 deep breaths. Let's go. Really feeling that oxygen filling every part of your body. Last one. Okay, fantastic. Dori, go for it.
All right. Today's quote is by Swami Vivekananda, who was an Indian Hindu monk, philosopher, author, and spiritual leader. And so the quote goes like this: when you have learned from a teacher, you must become your own teacher. And so it's a very straightforward quote. And for me, it's really important that we all teach and share what we've learned, because when we learn things, we filter them through our experience. And so if you were to read a book, Jim, and I were to read that same book, we will have different reflections and learnings from it. Different parts will resonate differently. And so to me, in the last 10 years or so, I have been noticing just a lot of patterns in the things that I'm learning, right? Whether it's at work or from a spiritual perspective, I feel like there's a lot of similarities, a lot of core concepts between spiritual practices, even religions. Years ago, I read The Dummy's Guide to World Religions. There was an entire section on here's what all of these religions have in common. And so to me, when we learn all of these things, a lot of people will take that extra step and they will create something that they think or they believe is unique, and it is, but it's taking existing frameworks and concepts. Maybe it's about leadership, maybe it's about meditation, and they make it their own, and then they turn that into a product and they put it out into the world, whether it's a book or a class or whatever. And so I feel that at some point we all have to do some version of this, even if it's in a small way. And maybe it's not have to, but it would be beneficial if we did that thing, even if it's just for ourselves. And of course, I'm going to bring a framework in here. I love a framework. There's a teaching, I think it's like a pyramid in terms of learning, and it shows you the steps of learning. And at the top is like, you have to become the teacher, right? Which is exactly what this quote is saying. And I remember 6 years ago now, I was learning somatic meditation and practice. And last summer, I did a whole hour of that, right? And we did our retreat to the School of Subtle Qualities. And I want to do more of that. I want to put my version of that out into the world, which would include art making and drawing things out. I haven't done that. I'm ready to do that. I've been ready for a long time. All the ideas are in my brain, and maybe there's still something holding me back, but there is an idea there that I want to share out with the world. And I think everyone has at least one thing like that maybe they've learned, or even something creative, like a poem or a song or a book that they need to put out into the world because someone is waiting to hear it or to benefit from it. I talk a lot about becoming a master of something. And I think there is no such thing as master, right? I think we revere our teachers. I revere all of my teachers in a certain way because they're usually older and wiser than I am. But a piece that one of my teachers taught me is that you really start to learn when you start to teach, because then you start learning from your students and everything just deepens and grows and takes on all these different dimensions. And so to me, that's exciting. I want to see what that looks like. I want to feel what that looks like. It's been a long time since I taught. I used to teach. I was a teaching assistant and I was in university. And so I know what it's like to be in a classroom setting. The way I'm scratching that itch right now is through this podcast where we talk about a quote and then we share our life experience, our aspirations, and how we're trying to embody some of these quotes. So that's helpful. But I'm curious about how this one lands for you because you teach a lot. And I think one of my favorite things that you do, you'll say, "Oh, that's brilliant." And someone will say something and you'll say, "That's brilliant. I'm going to steal that." And when the person leading the thing says that to you, it feels good because we all have something to offer. Oh, yeah. How's it landing with you?
Yeah. I think part of me loves teaching and part of me hates teaching. It's rare to find a teacher who actually follows their own teachings. And like you say, in the modern world, everyone's written a book or made a website or selling us something about something they've learned. And the only way to really embody these things is to continuously do them. And when you're teaching them, well, then you have to and you don't have a choice. I remember when I was a kid, my mother, she used to send me to the new past lives therapist who was new in the town we lived in to see what the person was like and if they were good. And so often you could tell that this person had just done a course or read a book and they were just regurgitating somebody else's teachings. But when you really live it yourself, because you have to teach it, or in a different way, when you essentially become your own student, then the quality of it completely changes because then you don't have to think about it because information is transient. When you really live it and breathe it and it is you, it's completely natural. And then you're giving a session and somebody comes out with something brilliant and you're like, well, yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I love it. I'm totally stealing that because then it's not about me being the important one or the one in authority, or I'm the one with the special information and I'm going to impart my special information on other people. You're in it, rolling your sleeves up with everyone else, kind of cutting your way through the jungle with a machete along with everyone else. That makes for a much deeper teaching and learning experience. You know, when you're with a teacher and you don't feel like you're being taught, that's a really special thing. And it's rare, isn't it? Most of the time we feel like we're being taught. I read this thing on the internet a while ago, and it's true that only 3% of all online courses ever get finished. And it's because they're all on video and it's just, here's some information, off you go. Human beings, we're community animals. We need connection and to be with people. And the best way for learning is not to be sitting in lines in chairs looking at the teacher at the front at the blackboard. It's to be in a circle sharing and each person saying what they feel and how they understand it and that being accepted. And then we all kind of come to new conclusions together. That's what real learning is for me. And if everyone is the teacher, you know, if you're the teacher, there's a responsibility there for you to take that information and make it your own instead of just regurgitating it.
Exactly. And now that you've said that, maybe that is the thing that's holding me back because I don't feel like there's certain things that I would want to share that I would want to be practicing a little bit more frequently or regularly before I go into a space where I'm sharing it in that way. But there's also a bit of perfectionism for me anyways that goes into some of this where thing has to be perfect before I share it, which doesn't make sense because it's going to be this co-created thing anyways. I can come with a core concept or a framework, a structure of what the thing should be, but then the people in the room are going to be the ones that really make it what it is. And I think thinking of it that way takes a lot of the pressure off, right? Because then you're not teaching, but you're facilitating an experience and an exchange in a way, as opposed to this top-down thing that we've been taught is teaching.
Yeah, it's true. When you realize that you need to do it your way, that takes development. You can't just go, right, I've learnt this thing, I'll do it my way. Because for it to be natural and to flow, you need to be able to really feel it and to feel a system or a teaching or a way of doing something. You know, people aren't stupid. People feel everything and they notice everything and they know BS when they see it, don't they? You know, or feel it. In a school environment, for example, well, the teacher has authority. I mean, when I was at school, they used to hit you with stuff or all kinds of nasty things, but they had authority. So then the teaching, you didn't really have a choice. As the learner, you had no choice but to sit quiet, be still, do what you were told and done. But that's not real teaching. And if you're going to do real teaching where there is transformation in that other person, but also therefore in you, you can't use authority. There's got to be a coming together, like a oneness between you and the person or those people. so that my evolution benefits you and your evolution benefits me. And I think that's really scary, and none of us want to go there. And for me, I couldn't really do it any other way. I didn't really have a choice. And I just took things that I liked and added them in and looked at what worked and what didn't, really. And so you can only develop that in the doing of it.
Yeah.
But we're all sitting there having had the education of learn this, then you get an A, then you can go and be this thing, go to
Yeah.
university, get your grade, and then you can go and be a lawyer. Instead of, no, do it as you're doing it, like law, medicine, bricklayers, perfect the art of laying bricks over the course of years, don't they?
Yeah. To me, there's a piece about that transformation, how it transforms you, that requires some reflection and requires some effort on an ongoing basis, because it's very easy for some folks to go through a course and learn the things and, like you said, regurgitate it back. You get the certificate and now, okay, cool. But are you doing that thing? Are you using that skill, or are you practicing, like you said? I think only through practice and reflection will that thing that you want to put out into the world emerge in the way that it's meant to emerge, right? You and I have talked a lot about these moments of flow, and there's tons of research and quotes and things about the flow state. And that can feel like it's not even you creating that thing or that piece of writing or that piece of art. It's something beyond, right? You're just a channel for this thing that needs to come out. And everyone has the capability to get into that flow state. And I feel like teaching or sharing, if we want to change up the words here, sharing what you're meant to share, sharing what is your unique gift and purpose on this earth, is you in that flow state. That's where it's going to come from. It's not going to come from watching someone else's course and then regurgitating it back in the same way or in some slightly modified way. It's going to be something else. It's going to be something much different than that. I guess, how do we tap in? I guess one way is through flow state.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've recently really enjoyed watching the lives of modern artists, and all of them will have gone to art school and learned how to paint or draw, and then they went off and created their own style. And it's kind of the same story over and over again. And there are even some who went to art school and then were paid to copy the masters and make copies of amazing paintings.
I did that in art school.
I love how, Kandinsky, for example, was known for these lines and squares of color kind of type work. But if you see his early work, it's what you would learn at art school. But then there's an in-between stage where you see how he got to the lines and colored squares and all these things. And it's amazing how he was never really successful monetarily in his own life. But there are pictures of a tree, and you can see the energy of the tree itself.
Yeah.
And he taught himself to become his own master of his own work. And I think I personally would have been fried years ago if I didn't actually do the things that I taught, because otherwise it doesn't have any meaning to just imparting information. I think this is a really, really interesting one. Dori, please give it to us again.
Gladly. When you have learned from a teacher, you must become your own teacher. So thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe, share with someone who's trying to find that thing or take the next step to that thing, or maybe just send it to them and just be like, you can do it. Send them some encouragement. Yeah, please do that. And we will promise to do the same and keep doing this podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day and take care.
Thank you for listening to the Pearl and the Echo podcast with me, Dori Sim, and my co-host, Jim Rajan. Thank you to Rebel Mixtape Productions for editing this episode. If you like what you heard, like, subscribe, and share with those in your life that matter most.